tell you that I had the opportunity to sit next to this woman at the banquet, and she is from Atlanta, and so she said to me, well, where are you from? And I said, well, I'm from Reno, Nevada. And she said, of course you are. And my expression must have been a lot like that, like, she said, I could tell you were a woman of the Wild West. So I'm still processing that. So my topic today is love through service. And Eric Fromm, who wrote The Art of Loving, said this about love. He said, love is the active concern for the growth and the well-being of the object loved. And that has always stayed with me and struck me, because love then becomes a verb. It's active. And we know that God is love, and therefore we can say that God is a verb. God is action. So I think it's really interesting that Aaron and I were in Disney World, because I have to tell you that service in Disney World is the most amazing thing. People that are, they call them cast members, people who are the cast members in Disney World are so gracious and so polite and so genuinely caring, or that, boy, they are good actors. They have come together in a way to be in loving service. And that's how they're trained, and that's how they behave. We got lost, really lost in the dark. We were looking for the place to return the rental car, and the map just was not right. So we had pulled into this little divider place right in the middle of the highway, sort of, and it was dark as it could be. There wasn't any kind of directional sign at all. We were just sort of flummoxed in the middle of nowhere. And this bus pulled up, and the bus driver honked at us gently. And then he said, he opened his window and he said, where are you looking? What are you looking for? And so he directed us to, and we weren't far, but we would never have found it without his help. He didn't have to do that. I mean, he was just doing it. He was getting ready to call it a day, probably. His bus was empty. And still, he was so helpful and so gracious. He was love in service. And so, you know, the phrase, I think it's Taoist, I'm not absolutely sure, about chop wood, carry water, enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And so that's the whole essence of enlightenment and being in spirit, is to be in service in whatever way is appropriate to you. There's a story that just really struck me, and that was that an immigrant from some country, and I don't know where, and it's not really important, was had a shoe shine stand. And he was so careful about shining shoes. He did it with love. Had a toothbrush, and he cleaned out the soles of the feet, and he cleaned between the shoe and the heel. And someone asked him, why are you so fastidious about polishing shoes? And his reply was this: every shoe I polish takes my son closer to college. Love and service. And so, if we can all live our lives that way, we don't have to be great, huge spiritual gurus. We only need to live our lives in service. And that's the love that shows up. Serendipitously, my son called me when we were in the airport, and he said that he had been at what I thought I heard him say was a cherry event. And so I didn't know what a cherry event was, but he explained it to me. And that was that he had been at a bicycle marathon helping women who were in a charity event, changing their tires and giving them water and being helpful. And he was saying that it felt really good to be helpful. Really good to be in service. And then he didn't know what kind of charity event it was. He thought maybe it was fibromyalgia, or he didn't know. But the point is that it didn't matter because he was in service. And it felt really good. And so that's how we express our divinity. That's how we are God in action, by being in service. We all have had work in the past that hasn't been what we would consider very satisfying, but the truth of the matter is it's not the work. We can all have jobs that are less than satisfying. But what the real issue is how we perform those jobs. Do we perform them from love, from service, like the wonderful people at Disney World do? Or do we perform them from a place of ego, thinking that we can do better than this, that we can be employed in better opportunities? And the truth of the matter is, no matter what we do, we are in service to God. So we can cook a meal, we can grow a garden, we can clean a house, we can bathe, we can do all of the fundamental, rudimentary jobs that come up in this world from that place of divinity and that place of divine service. We can be love through service. For a time, I don't know whether it's true or not, but now, not necessarily so. But Reader's Digest had an award called The Power of One. How one person in service could make a difference in this world. And one of the people that struck me was a young girl who was 17 from Santa Margarita, California, Caitlin Crommett. 17. And she volunteered through her school at a retirement home that was connected with a hospice. And so Caitlin found herself filing and also singing at memorial services. And she was really struck by the sense of hopelessness, despair, lack of dreams, lack of joy that was in this retirement home. And she started thinking at 17 that there must be something more, something different. So she founded this nonprofit organization called the Dream Catchers. And the Dream Catchers was sort of like Make-A-Wish, except for adult, mature, elderly people, to help them complete their bucket list. And one story that really stuck with me was a fellow Bernard, who was a sailor. And so Caitlin arranged to have a yacht at his disposal for a day so he could have a sail. I know. So Martin Luther King said this, and I think it's just so apropos. He said, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and your verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. So to me, that's a very powerful phrase, a heart generated by love. And I wonder how you feel satisfied and content in service. It only takes one, the power of one. And as we know, there is only one. And Robert had the quote last week of, help me out.
Once you're committed.
Yes, once you're committed. And I can't remember, Goethe, right?
Yeah.
It was the Goethe quote about once you make a commitment, the whole universe steps forward to help you, to clear the way. Because we are all one. We are all the power of one. We're all God in action as service. We don't have to know the rest of the story. We don't have to know the how of it. We only need to know what's right in front of us to do. Whose shoes need to be polished? Whose bicycle needs to be fixed? Who needs to sail? We don't have to do great things, as Mother Teresa says. We only need to do small things with great love. Because that's God in action. That's the whole idea of the verb of God, to be in service. So we don't have to do great things. But I would invite you this week to take a look, to just look every day, every moment, about what you might do that would make someone's life a little more peaceful, someone's life a little more comfortable, stepping up and into service. Gandhi said this. He said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. So, that's just about all I have to say this morning, but I want to let you know that the board has 2 vacancies that are coming up in a month or so. So I'd like for you to just take a look in your heart and see if perhaps that may be a way that you can serve. Now the board's job here in this community is to be the fiduciary guardians of our income, to spend our money with attention, and to serve in that way. So take a look at that and see if perhaps that might be something that you could do with joy, with love, for this community. But don't limit it to that. That's just a suggestion. You serve by your presence. Because when we come together, there's a collective consciousness. We set up a vibration that really has the power to change the world. We are sitting right here, right now, in the power of one. So, thank you for coming together here. Thank you for bringing your energy into this place. Thank you for using the principles that we teach here in the world and to be of service. I love you all. Namaste. I'd like to invite the minister and the practitioners to stand and hold the consciousness of this community for us. And this is absolutely their service. They are God. So you can look around and see that they're God in action. They are love in action here. And we're so blessed to have each one of them. So join with me as I turn within. As I allow myself to step into that higher calling of the Divine One. As I allow myself moment to moment to be the expression that is God in action, God in service. And I give myself permission to live a life of awareness, to know in what ways, moment to moment, I can be in service to the divine, as the divine's mouth and hands and eyes and ears and hearts. As I step into my role as the power of one, knowing that the work of the divine cannot be done except through you and through me. And so I, at this moment, invite you to open your heart to see where you might serve. So as we, as a community, close out the topic of love, which has been what we've been talking about all through February, I invite you to literally take it to heart. To be open to opportunities. To be open to love. To be open to making a commitment and allowing the universe to hold you up and support you and move you forward. And I know that we are all God in action, and there is nothing that can stop us. There is nothing that stands in my way that limits me. There's nothing that I need say, oh, I can't do that because I'm only one. I am one with the one, as the one. I have the power of one. And so I just allow it to circulate in the universe with the law and action. And I let it go and I step back with wondering, joyful eyes to see how God and I are going to work miracles. I claim that for each one of us. And I invite you to claim it for yourself by declaring with me, and so it is. Thank you, practitioners. So another congregational song.